Going to play. Well, fumbled that already. We're going to be playing Alan Wake's American Nightmare. We're going to start a new story. I'm sure most gamers have heard of the original Alan Wake. Very story-heavy, wonderful game. Definitely an experience. This one doesn't get as much love. And I think part of it is it suffers from what I would call direct-to-DVD syndrome. The initial Alan Wake was a very thought-out, very story-heavy, very innovative, high-end game. It had a lot of cross-promotion tie-ins with Motorola, I think Lincoln, possibly Mercedes. It was one of the two. And several other companies that paid good money to have their products featured in the game. So it had an extraordinarily high budget, and it shows. It was a fantastic piece of storytelling. This one was made some years later, following the continued adventures of Alan chasing Mr. Scratch, his evil self, within the Nightmare realm from the first one. The budget was a lot lower, and I can't say for certain, but I'm fairly sure this was released for, if not a handheld console, it was just much less grand. It may have even just been a download exclusive through PS Network and Xbox Live. I don't think this ever actually existed as physical media. And it does show the budget was lower. There's no more of the tie-ins with product placement. And in terms of story, this one is a lot more simplistic. The graphics are very close. I feel like they use probably the same engine and reused assets. We have the mechanics of the focusing of the light and the same cinematic style. We get more of the nightmarish objects come to life segments with this one. Some of this was missing in the main game until the DLCs. But this one doesn't aim to tell as big a story. Going back to my analysis of direct-to-DVD syndrome, the first Alan Wake formatted itself very much like a very high-budget television series, something on the lines of Game of Thrones, or possibly one of the more ambitious Stephen King miniseries events, with every level, for lack of a better term, ending with a cliffhanger and then beginning with a recap. So the game was very episodic, even though it didn't release episodically. It was released as a complete game. This one, though, tells a very self-contained story that feels more like, I don't want to say it feels like a cheap cash-in, because it doesn't. It's just a smaller narrative. This can either count as something in your mind towards building the lore of Alan Wake, or it can mean absolutely nothing. It's that sort of story. I love the original Alan Wake, but I find myself coming back to this one more because this one scratches a very particular horror itch. We all have those primal fears, just little oddball things that scare us more than they should, whether it's rational or not. One of my greater fears would be what you could call I don't remember how to sprint. Okay, there we go. There's sprint. Yeah, I remember sprinting. Now it makes it look like you're about to fall flat on your face. One of my greater fears would be what you could call either a bootstrap paradox or a causality loop. Up in a situation where time folds in on itself and there's no escape. Which that in itself isn't what would terrify me. What would terrify me is being caught in that sort of situation. And knowing that I'm in that situation. It's not the situation itself, it's knowing the situation. And that's very much what this game is. See, Emma here recognizes us because of Mr. Scratch being through. And the manuscript pages, they tie in with the original Alan Wake, where he was writing a book and ran afoul of a reality bender who used the work of various artists to shape the world around it. So it's continuing those themes. But this darkness manifests the shadowy humans we see and can alter things. Now, Mr. Scratch is not the darkness. He is a being that, by my interpretation, was born of the darkness and Alan's own dealings with it. An unintentional byproduct of the reality bending. I'm not going to make this boring by standing and talking with Emma a lot. I'll let anyone who's watching and wants to play go for that. But what we're trying to do here is we've got to get manuscript pages to unlock weapons and find out more of the story. But in terms of our immediate objective, we're looking for items that seem innocuous but have symbolic value in this dream world, where Alan will be able to use these objects to alter reality in the area to try to escape the loop. The battery from this truck is one of the options. Oh, okay, safe haven under the lights. It's been a while. I honestly thought that it was directing me to go to the Jeep to drive. But again, that's a very interesting concept. If you were to actually be rewriting reality, you wouldn't do it through normal scientific technology. It would be something more akin to alchemy, where it would function almost on a magical level, and that's what this game is exploring. I guess I'm going to go in the back way. So each of these objects are just ordinary things that mean something extraordinary. Okay. Maybe there's another way in. Oh. I forget what they're called in game, but these are the humans taken over by the darkness, which does kind of lead to an interesting moral question in the original Alan Wake, at least. I want the shotgun. This one, it's quite clear that we are... There's a CD. It's quite clear that we are in an area outside of the normal rules of reality. This place, these people may have once existed, but Mr. Scratch has pulled them into their own reality. So, these are likely not sentient humans. However, in the first Alan Wake, all these people you would encounter were real people possessed by darkness. So, you can argue that in the first game, our hero Alan was killing a lot of people. Here's our last item. It's a valve, and I'm going to jump like an idiot. The way he jumps reminds me of Darkwing Duck from the old Amiga CD. Alright, I gotta go back to Emma to recharge the battery. Since I've taken a hit and we only have 3 hits, we'll run over here to the light really fast. One thing, I can say this as a warning. If you are thinking about playing this game, I forget what it costs on Steam, and have no clue what it would be on other platforms. Oh, we got a little television here. These will also give you some interesting looks into what's going on. This is Mr. Scratch. You can tell the difference between him and Alan, because Mr. Scratch, although noticeably malicious, dresses impeccably, whereas Alan kind of looks like... It kind of looks like when Steven Weber isn't in a starring role. Alright, we're back and need to charge the battery. But what I was saying about the warning for this particular game, we're going to go to the oil field to start rewriting. A lot of people have complained that this game has 3 levels. And that is technically true. However, it's not run through level 1, go to level 2, go to level 3, you're done in an hour. Each level continues on as part of this loop. So each time you go through the loop and come back, it's not the exact same level. There are things that have changed. The experience is a little different. That's part of how a causality loop would work. No matter how much you try, you wouldn't be able to go through the loop exactly the same way each time. And that's part of why this appeals to me as a game, and also kind of falls in that very strange primal fear. Oh, no. I died. At least we checkpointed back. Alright, this time no mistake. I'm going to toss the flare right out. These larger ones, as you damage them, whether by a light or gunfire will break down into smaller enemies. Alright. Still says clear oil field of enemies. So what's coming after me here? Okay. Wheel was in place, the oil was flowing, the battery was attached, the lights were blinking, the CD was playing in the boombox. This is part of the manuscript that Alan is writing while in this nightmare realm to try to rewrite the reality around him to escape. His main goal here is to escape and be back with his wife. So, like I said, although these are very innocuous, almost useless trifles within the logic of dreams, it's very important. And I got to be very careful to continue talking over this part. The music is amazing, but I'm fairly certain would probably get a good copyright strike, even though I'm not at a point where I'm monetized, nor am I trying to rip off music. It's just how the algorithms work. But it's a very epic moment the first time you experience it, if you can just get quiet and listen to that music. It's not a song or genre that I would choose to listen to by itself, but it really, really suits what's going on here. All that we did was to crash the satellite, which, for whatever symbolic reason, is what was needed to alter the reality of this situation. So now that we've done that, we're going to return to Emma and see what's changed. I think I can take a breath now. Interesting, the size of that satellite, isn't it? Looks almost like a lunar shuttle. Alright, let's go visit her. Got some hostiles. And I don't have another flare. So I gotta be very careful here not to take too many hits. So it feels a little wonky, but your flashlight works as your reticle for your gun too. That's what I'm aiming off of. Oh no. Flare gun. That's not good. Alright, he's down. Alright. Is that it? Okay, thank goodness. I would not have survived another hit there. Alright, let's go in here and see Emma. But that's the initial attempt to rewrite reality. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So now we're trying to track down where Mr. Scratch went from here. We're going to have to head out to a diner here in the same town. Yep, I mean, she is saying what pretty much everybody would be thinking. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure. You could you could argue that Mr. Scratch or the darkness in the area could disable a car going down the road, but at the same time, it is conceivable that if you were going with both your exterior and interior lights on, you would be somewhat safe. Although we do see a bit of a cheat and a break in that logic with the neon sign there being animated. So it's kind of fluid what the limitations are of the darkness. But that fluidity and instability with the logic adds to the dreamlike quality of these games. And Alan will often talk in a very poetic sort of way. He is a writer by trade, so the way he's going to assess situations will be, here's a clue to where we may have to go later. But the way Alan will speak about certain things is very much how a writer would speak were he writing the story, which is part of the interesting soft canonicity of this game. Is this part of the main game, or was this something written by Alan before or after the main game? Let's see. Oh, they got her. See, there's a great example of the fluidity of the darkness and its limitations. The standard enemies can't step into the light. We burn the darkness off of them, and we can kill them with conventional weaponry. We're safe under street lamps, but Emma was in a very bright place there, and the darkness just flooded in and got her. I don't remember if there's anything to actually see in here if we go explore where she was, but we'll check it out anyway. See, and interestingly enough, as soon as we step in, our flashlight goes out. I wish I remember what that dodge button was. It's not A. Not that. I don't think it's our sprint button, but we'll try it next time we get in combat. Oh, I might have actually looked up there. Yep. Our next goal is the observatory, and I kind of goofed there. I was going to go to all three rooms. I don't believe there's anything super important to the story in them, but it's still interesting to explore. I didn't go to any of the little out-of-the-way places there to get manuscript pages, but I want to say there are 6 manuscript pages per level. You can't get all of them each cycle. I believe you can only get 2 per cycle, unless I'm completely wrong on the number. There may be more. In fact, it may be 30 manuscript pages. I don't remember properly. But we've made it to the observatory, and once we get out here, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. That way it's not too long. And we'll join back up here later on. Thank you for watching.